Hello. My hair's doing some funny things. Hi, happy day. Is it Wednesday, besties and bosses? Let's see if we can get technology working for us today. Now, the last 2 weeks we've had this drop off in the middle, so hopefully today we will have a full live stream. This feels like a really important conversation. I don't know if it's the sexiest conversation, but this is legitimately what has supported me as a skill as a CEO to show up like a CEO, to think like a CEO, to not just make multi six figures in my business every year, but to take home multi six figures. I pay myself multi six figures every year, but it's also really helped me to sustain those results. I've been fully booked for over 6 years now with 20 to 25 one-on-one clients. I make consistent, last couple of years, 25K to 40K cash months. Many of my clients make far more. This is what I'm definitely supporting my clients with as well. And I think this skill set is something, because it's not sexy, we just don't talk about it in the online space very much. And I would say it is one of the biggest things, skill set, strategies. It's also mindset, but that has just really supported me. So I want to dive into that today. Let me just see. Yes, I can see this in the group. So if you're here, say hello. Let me know you're live. Definitely feel free to ask questions. I want to make sure that this is valuable for you as we're going through this. And what I will say, we turned our last masterclass, the Simplified Scaling Blueprint, I turned that evergreen because I got so much great feedback from how valuable that was. That went into the blueprint that me and my clients use, the 5 components you need to sustainably scale your business to consistent and profitable 10K to 100K months. I don't just care about how much money you make. I want you to also have enough left over to pay yourself well. And I've just had so much great feedback from that. We actually made that evergreen. My team did that for us. So we've been sharing in the group, but this concept here, I touch on it briefly in the masterclass. I'm going to extrapolate on it more, but I go through 4 other CEO level mindsets that really support you to think like that next level CEO who is able to scale smarter, not harder, make more money in your business. So I'll drop a link for that afterwards here if that's something you want to dive into deeper. It's completely free. It's a great masterclass. I'd love to have you. If you missed it the first time around we had it live, I will drop that for you so that we can dive into it. So the reason for this conversation, aside from just it's really important and it's something I love to talk about and it's something I'm working with clients on all the time, but I think it'll actually give you context into so many things. So the reason for this is last week, 2 weeks ago, the 41st day into the new presidency in the US, I posted a reel. It was more of a political reel, and it went quasi-viral. I think we're at almost 300K views, which I have an audience on Instagram of about, well, it's grown because of this reel, but it's about 8,400 at the time. So it's not viral like it's a million views, but 300K views is definitely viral for my account. It has the most saves, the most shares, not the most likes, but definitely the most follows I've ever had from a reel before. So it's going quite bonkers. And what happened, and this is not necessarily the conversation today, but I think this is helpful for you to know. For a reel to go viral, I don't think we talk about this a lot either. For a reel to go viral generally, you either need something that's super universal. I have a couple of clients where we've just talked about this, like their niche content is probably never going to go viral, and I have other clients where their content is probably going to go viral quite a bit because their content is just a little bit more universal. So you either need something that's super universal, something that's like super entertaining, like everybody's like, oh my gosh, yes, that's me, or generally speaking, something that is pretty, when I say universal and specific, not to make this a content live stream, but if that's just helpful to hear, no matter what you're doing, I'm always coaching clients when they're looking at their reels and content, what's performing well is, or in terms of reach, not necessarily conversion, but in terms of reach, is something that is universal that people can say me too, like yes, oh my gosh, yes, I get that. So very universal, but that is also very specific. That combination tends to do well. Or something that's controversial. And this is literally, my clients, was just talking about this. There was a whatever event happened in Vegas where a lot of like the bro marketers were teaching, and I actually like quite a few of the bro marketers, so I'm not hating on that. But one of the strategies they were teaching is essentially to create more controversial content, because what happens when you have something that's controversial, and basically I think of it as less, don't try to be controversial for the sake of being controversial. That doesn't seem like a heart-centered or an integrity approach, but have an opinion that's strong enough in your messaging that is going to both attract and repel people. When you do that, what happens, and this is what happened in my case, the reason that post is going viral is not because everybody liked it. I mean, there are far more people who like it and who have followed me because of it, but when I wrote this live stream, there were 400 hate comments. I think I have over 700 or 800 hate comments at me, and not just people disagreeing with the post, but calling me names, telling me my husband must be sick of my shit, telling me I'm stupid, telling me I'm bad at math, telling me I'm bad at business, calling me a clown, calling me things that I can't say on this live stream because it'll probably just shut us off. I mean, insulting me in every which way. We could have a whole conversation. I've done some content on Instagram about, I'm just really fascinated by how little it bothers me. And as a side note here, I know there's a lot of side notes. I promise I'm going to get to the underrated skill as a CEO, but there's just been so many lessons and learnings in this for me. My friend shared a reel with me, and I thought this person just said it so well, and I wish I knew the person's name. If I think of it, I'll share it in here. But they were essentially saying when people are attacking your character and not your content, that's when you know your argument has weight, because they've like lost their critical thinking skills, which is why this doesn't bother me. People can call me names all day long. Like, that just means that I've hit a nerve and I'm saying something that feels true to them, and they don't have anything smarter to say, or they don't have any critical thinking skills. Anyways, I think that could just be helpful as a side note, as a side lesson for any of you who are scared to share your voice or who are getting some haters in the comments. Anyway, this happened, and it was quite a to-do. People are being asshats, so to say. And I was talking with one of my clients last week, kind of as this was all going down, with something that was going on for her. And she essentially asked me, she's like, I don't understand. She's like, how are you able? She's like, you seem totally fine. You don't seem bothered. And in full transparency, I was very unbothered by this. There are definitely other things that trigger me and bother me, but that was not one of them. She's like, you're able to keep showing up and post. You seem fine. And then it kind of, the conversation turned a little bit around to, she's like, I don't understand, like, even when we're coaching, she's like, I sometimes feel like I bring stuff to you that I know if someone brought that to me would super trigger me. And she's like, you always just seem like it doesn't bother you if I come to you like super heavy things, or, some of my triggers, or like, I'm stressed about clients or not making money, or whatever the thing is that, people stress about in business. And she was sort of like, how do you do that? Why is that? And so that's the conversation I wanted to have today, because the reason that I'm able to do that is not because I'm perfect. It's not because I don't care. Yes, in this case, I'm unbothered by those comments, but that's because of, like, someone can call me ignorant all they want, stupid all they want. I know I have a neuro genius level IQ because I've been tested. Like, it literally, like, the things they're saying feel so untrue to me that it doesn't bother me. I'm also so convicted in what I say. And I think anytime I'm sharing something in my message, I think I used to think I would be so scared if someone came at me for something. But what I've really seen to be true is when I really believe in what I'm saying, I'm convicted in that. When it feels really true to me, it doesn't bother me then if someone doesn't agree with it. I'm also really willing and open to hearing someone else's opinion and to being wrong. So that doesn't bother me either. It's kind of as a note here, but the secret here and the skill set here isn't being perfect. It's not getting everything right. It's not making sure that I never piss off people on the internet. It's not making sure I never have trolls or haters. And the reason I'm saying this is I think for a lot of my clients and for a lot of people in business, what we think is the way to create success and the way to keep success and the way to feel safe in business is just to make sure none of these things ever happen. And I wrote a reel about this yesterday, the whole quote, the only fear to fear is fear itself. And I feel like it just landed so hard for me this week to see. I think in the past I really did have a fear of people coming after me. I'd say one of my biggest fears is people hating me just because of my past traumas. And it was just really interesting to see how literally unbothered I was. And that it wasn't because I don't care. I care deeply about my work. I care deeply about what's going on in the world. I care deeply about things. It also wasn't like about pretending that this doesn't affect me or that the state of the world doesn't affect me. It also wasn't about being emotionless, but it was. And what does, like, I would say, like, my coaching superpower, and one of the things I really coach my clients around, and that's what I want to unpack here more, the skill set that has, like, changed everything for me as a CEO is learning to think and show up like a CEO. And I'm going to explain what I mean by that. Seeing my business as separate from me. I am not my business. I love my work. I actually love to work, and I love my business, and I love my clients, but I see it as something that is separate to me. It is not something that all of my value or like everything is derived from. So see myself as separate from that. And then knowing that what it means to think and show up like a CEO is separate from who Kim is as a human outside of business. It is really the more neutral version of me that's just able to look at my business and what is going on and make decisions based on that. And when I can do that, when I have that skill set, that changes everything. And that's why I'm able to not get so bothered by, there's lots of reasons I'm not bothered by those comments, but in general, like what I've seen is like why I'm not so bothered when I show up and people don't like what I have to say, or when something doesn't go the way I want to in business. But it's also one of the reasons I'm able to show up really neutrally for clients, to hold their stuff. And I think that's actually quite important. So I want to talk about this. I'm going to break this down quite a bit, because I think when we hear something like get to neutral, because I know I talk about that quite a bit. I definitely talked about that in the last masterclass. I think it is a concept where it's like, yeah, that makes sense. Like I share Greg McKeown, who wrote It Takes What It Takes. I share this in the masterclass, but he wrote a great book on the power of neutrality instead of the power of positivity. I really think of positivity and negativity as, they're normal human emotions, but they're on quite extremes. And when we run business, we don't really want to run business from either extreme. We really want to run it from a more neutral place, because that's what allows us to see the next play ahead. That's what it makes us to be more even keeled, to be more steady, and to make strategic decisions. If I'm super excited or I'm super stressed out, neither of those places tend to be the places I'm seeing clearly and really making the best decisions. And so I love how Greg McKeown is his name, how he talks about this, because he was a football or a sports, like I think high performance coach. I don't know the technical term, but he talks so much about how in sports, when you're looking at, like, say, winning the Super Bowl and he's coaching a team there, it's so easy to either want to like ride the like, we're going to win, like high vibe wave, or if you're like down at the first half and losing, to get super down. And either one, then your emotions are really causing you to be reactive, and to like, that can have you essentially lose the Super Bowl, for example. And really the way you win the Super Bowl is to be neutral, and that every time you have a play, you leave that, whatever your last play, whether it was good or bad, it's in the past, you leave it alone and you just focus on the next play ahead. Right? You just keep your eye on the next play ahead. And that's what I think of when I think of being a CEO. I think, of course, we have to have big picture thinking as well, but I think what happens for so many of us as CEOs, and what causes us to spin out, what causes us to make strategic decisions that seem strategic but are actually emotionally based decisions, they're actually reactions, they're actually us trying to create and get things from our business, like create safety and get our safety from our business instead of our outside life. Like, that's just not the role of our business. Causes overwhelm, can cause us to spend money unnecessarily and really cut into profit margins, can cause us to spin out, can make business feel really heavy, is when we're feeling high or low. And instead of looking at the next play ahead and really making those neutral strategic decisions, we're really making reactive decisions, and that can create quite a lot of chaos in business without meaning to. I think what happens when we're in that state of mind is it seems really logical. It seems like we found the right problem to solve. It seems like we're doing what we need to do. I think we're seeing this play out. I have a reel I'm posting today. Oh my gosh, y'all, side note. I created a reel, I wrote all the thing, and I went to go post it, and it has quite a bit of moving pieces in terms of like the editing, the captions. I saved it, everything deleted, and I didn't save a backup because I was going to post it right away. So I think it'll go out today, but we'll see if we can recreate it. But one of the things without ruining that reel, one of the things I was just speaking to is if I coach my clients the way the president is running the country, there would be a lot of chaos, because that is a lot of reactivity. That is the opposite of having a CEO level mindset and being really neutral and approaching and thinking like a CEO and treating your business like a business, or running the country like a country, right? It's very reactive, it's very emotional based, and we can see every time something doesn't go his way, every time there is something that doesn't immediately get approval, like everything is very emotionally based and emotionally charged and very reactive, and we can see the chaos it's creating. I think in their case, the chaos is actually a strategy, but I'll try to keep politics out of this live stream too much. But that's also what created all the haters in my comments, and what kind of created this conversation as well. So I think there's just some lessons we can learn there. Whereas when we are more neutral minded, when we're able to get to neutral, when we're able to create some separation from ourselves and our business, and to see we are not one, right? When we're able to get out of thinking like our inner children, right? We all have an inner child. We all have that emotional 3-year-old, 7-year-old, 13-year-old self. All of us have that. This is why I still work with my coach, right? But when we can take that part of us and process those emotions, those things that are coming up outside of business, as opposed to feeling all of our feels and then having our inner 3-year-old, 7-year-old, 13-year-old be the one that's making decisions in the business, everything changes. It gets so much easier, so much simpler, so much more strategic. Things cost less, things break less. You stop creating problems that don't exist. And this is the hard work, because what we're talking about here, like, it's easy for me to say neutrality. Oh, this is what I was saying earlier. I think when we hear neutrality, I think what we think that means is I called it robot mode, but that's robot mode in business. That's not robot. You're still a human. And what I think we often think is, when we're talking about being neutral, is that you're just supposed to be neutral all the time, or there's something wrong with you, you're screwing up. And I will share very transparently, I am a very emotional human being. I'm very sensitive. I care deeply. I am unbothered by the things in my business. I am deeply bothered by the things in our world, for example. I am got capital T trauma all over the place that I've done a lot of work around healing. But like, there's just a lot, like, I'm an ex-actress, y'all. Like, I am an emotional being. And so when we talk about being neutral, it's not don't have feelings. It's not don't be a human. It's don't be the sensitive person that you are. For most of you in this group, you're heart-centered, you're empaths, you are big-hearted people, you are sensitive. Your sensitivity is probably part of your superpower. And I think that's where this concept gets really, really confused, because we hear this and then we think it's like the bro marketing type of mentality, or we think this means don't care, or like act like we don't care, or to have a tough shell, or to like have a tough exterior. And that's not what neutrality or thinking like a CEO running your business like a business means at all. It means we have to start to accept that as humans, especially as sensitive, caring, empathetic, heart-centered human beings, where like I wear my heart on my sleeve. Like, I cry watching fucking commercials. You know what I mean? I cry on coaching calls with my clients when their wins are happening all the time. It doesn't mean be devoid of feelings and emotions. It means, can we start to learn when us are having emotions, and to feel our feels, and to learn how to appropriately process, feel our feels, and to be really mindful of what we make those feelings mean, and to let that be a part of our full-fledged human experience. But then when it comes to running our business, when it comes to making a strategic decision, when it comes to showing up to support clients, can we learn how to get to neutral and to step into that CEO role and to see our business as not a part of our emotional human experience? That's when things get really muddy. If I, as the super sensitive, emotional person with trauma responses and triggers and all of this that's feeling like activated by the state of the world, if I bring all of that into a coaching session, for example, that's really unfair to my clients, and that's really unfair for them to have to hold or to caretake. But it also would make it really tough for me to see my clients and what they're going through, and to help them come to a strategic decision, or to help them process and hold their feels, right? That's what their coaching is for. Just like if I'm looking at my business and I need to make a strategic decision, if I'm making the 700 hate comments mean that I suck as a business owner, or I'm wrong, or maybe my messaging is off, or maybe I shouldn't say these things, right? If I start to make this mean something about me and my character, and I get that really enmeshed, and I start to make decisions from that enmeshed, heightened place, that's a really tough place to run my business from, because then I'm going to start making poor decisions in my business. I'm going to start putting out really reactive content. I'm going to start putting out things that, who knows what I would put out, but I'm going to buy a program I don't need. I'm going to buy a course on social media I don't need. I'm going to water down my messaging. I'm going to hire people to support me on things. I'm all for hiring support. But I'm going to start spending money on things that I don't need to do, or start implementing things I don't need to do, or water down. And again, for as much hate as there is in this post, it's also the post that has literally brought me the most new followers ever. Like, we can look at it either way. And so I want us to see this, because the skill set and the superpower here is, again, it's not, when we talk about creating that separation and seeing that you are not your business, and then looking at how can you step into that role of a CEO, and I'm going to explain that a little bit more so that you can neutrally run your business. It doesn't mean don't be a human. It doesn't mean don't care. It doesn't mean don't have big feelings. And it doesn't mean you can't even bring that into your business. I think I bring a lot of my humanness and Kim's personality and what I care about into my business, but it means when I'm serving my clients, and it means when I'm making strategic decisions, I want to be really mindful. Is Kim the CEO making those decisions from a neutral headspace, or is Kim the activated human, or Kim the triggered human, or Kim the human who's super excited about, like whatever that is that the person making decisions? I just really want to be clear on that. I'm sure some of you have heard, I was talking about this with one of my clients this week, the concept of like the alter ego. I think Beyonce is the really good example. Beyonce has Sasha Fierce. And a lot of times we think of that alter ego as more of like when we're not feeling fully confident or owning our work, we're going to step into that alter ego, right? That Sasha Fierce in our business. And I think that can be helpful. But I think we can also think of our business as an alter ego, right? Our CEO role can also be an alter ego. And it doesn't have to be some puffed up, I mean, ideally, it's you and your power and you super confident in your work, but it can also be that neutral part of you. And it can be that alter ego, so to say. And that's really what I'm talking about. And sometimes it's just starting to notice where we're creating that enmeshment. And enmeshment, I just mean like, enmeshment is something that happens in personal relationships. But when I think about this with our business, what I think happens so often when we're feeling a lot of heightened feelings in our business and we're trying to act them out, or we're getting really reactive in business, we are very enmeshed with our business and we see it as like we are one, but we also are then asking our business to do a lot for us. I think one of the things I coach my clients around quite a bit is starting to see your business's job isn't to provide you with everything. It's not there to actually make you feel safe in every single way. Like, yes, it can create some of that financially for us, but it's not there to give you all of your self-esteem. It's not there to make you feel good all the time. It's not there to be your entertainment. It's right. We sometimes unintentionally, we all do this. Like, I've been guilty of this as well. Again, this is why I get coaching as well. But what I think when I'm not in my CEO role, I think I've just been doing this for 9 years. I've just gotten really skilled at understanding my CEO role and my Kim role and my coaching role, how to step into those. What I think we unintentionally can do is put so much pressure on our business to be a part of us, and then we make it mean anything that's happening in the business is a part of our self-worth, right? If your launch doesn't go the way you want, if you don't make as much money as you wanted this month, if you made all the money in the world this month, right? I'm having one of my biggest cash months this month. We could like flip it that way as well. If I meant that mean, oh my gosh, suddenly I'm a better human and I don't know, like I'm more worthy than I was the last month, right? That can get really sticky as well. We tend to make what's going on in our business mean something about us, or we tend to want our business to give us everything so that we can have our feelings and our needs met. And that's when we're not neutral, and that's when we're not thinking like a CEO and we're not treating our business like a business. It is a human thing to do. We all do it. The work isn't to be perfect. The work is to start to notice the skill set of how can I notice when I'm not in my role as a CEO, when I'm not treating my business like a business, when I'm in my role as a human trying to run my business and get everything from it, when I'm making my business, trying to get it to meet all my needs, when I'm in my business and I'm not treating it like a business and seeing what does my business need from me, what do my clients need from me, what do my audience need from me, what does my content need from me, and instead I'm trying to see how can this give me my safety, how can I give this my self-esteem, how can I give this my validation, right? That's when we get into hot water. Let me know if this is making sense, because I feel like I'm on a bit of a rant here. So I just want to make sure this is making sense. And so I think this again, like this is why I have a job. I'm not saying this is the easiest thing in the world. I think this is why we don't talk about this a lot. It is so much sexier for us to be like, use this one hook and then you'll blow up and make $1 million, where we don't realize that if it was that simple, everybody would be millionaires, because even if you use that hook and your reel goes viral, I will tell you right now, me going viral is not the thing that's making this month one of the best months in my business. I don't think any of those new followers, I don't even know if any of those new followers are people who are business owners, to be quite honest. So that's not the reason I'm having one of my best months, possibly my best month in business ever at all. Like they're not super correlated. But even if that were the case, we forget all of the things that come with more visibility, right? The haters, or even the people like it, right? More success, more money. We forget all of that and how important it is to be able to hold ourselves in that and to keep coming back to these things we're talking about here. And this is just like the less sexy stuff to talk about. But one of the things I promised I would talk about today is every single one of my high earning clients, the ones that are scaling and who are the most sustainably scaled in terms of like they're not having those high ups and lows. And I want to be very mindful here of how I frame this. All of my clients are incredible. All of my clients are talented. All of my clients are doing amazing. They're just at different stages of business. I work with clients who are brand new and have never, like, don't even have an offer when they hire me and are booking, their first clients and making their first couple thousand per month, to clients who are scaling to $250K, $500K, $700K, $1 million per year, who have been in business for years and years, or who are brand new but have more business background, so they just scale a little faster. So I just don't want to make this sound like these are better clients, but all of my clients who are scaling, who are higher earning, the thing that we are talking about are these sorts of conversations. We are constantly looking at what are they making things mean? How can they process their emotions and feelings outside of their business? What's getting them jacked up? How can we get to neutral? And then what are these strategic decisions so that they can treat their business like a business? One of the reasons I know that they hire me, because I've had this reflected quite a bit, is one of my clients says to me all the time, he's like, I said something the other day to him, and it was a compliment, and I was like, I'm not blowing smoke up your butt. And he's like, oh no, I know. He's like, because you are not that kind of a person. You give it to me straight. He's like, you're the only, like, one of the only people in my life who I know I can count on and trust, who's just going to always give it to me straight and tell me really directly what's up. Right. But the reason for that, and the reason they value that, is because they know it's my job to support them, to hold them in processing their feels, but also coming back to neutrality and thinking like a CEO, running like their business. And one of the things they are really skilled at that helps them stay profitable and keep their peace is this work. Because when we do this work, and when we're separating out our feelings from what we make them mean, because when we're making our feelings mean something, positive or negative, right? Like that's when it's really easy for us to get reactive in business. If I'm making, we'll just use this as an example. If I'm making a viral post mean, oh my gosh, I don't know if this is the best example. I'm gonna not go down. I'm gonna go down like a social media conversation, which would be valuable, but I'm gonna take us off the focus here. But one of the things here, what I would say is, what the work we're doing here, I'll bring it back to my clients. When we're doing this, they still get to have their feelings. They still get to be stressed out by the state of the world. I think this conversation is more important now than ever, because I'd say all of my clients are affected by the state of the world always, like whenever there's big things happening, but especially right now, but also personally. So when they have space, and when you're a highly empathetic person, they have a place to process that out, but also to self-soothe, to get back into control, but also to not have someone jump in with them and get all jacked up with them in that, or to spiral with them. When they have someone who can hold them, who's steady in that, it's a lot easier for them to get regulated, to process, and to get to neutral. And when they do that, they can then get to that place where they don't need their business to be the place they're going to act out in, where they're not going to try to use it to create the safety. And I would just say that's the skill set all of my clients at that level. Like, they've just gotten really practiced at using coaching for that, but also really practiced at noticing when their brains want to use the business as a way to give them safety, or when they're trying to look for a problem in their business as a way to feel control, or when they are I call that upper limiting in some ways. I think we talked about this last week, the Gay Hendricks term, but I think they're just really great at noticing, oh, I'm acting from my human side, my inner child side, my inner 3-year-old side, my trauma, my anxiety, like stuff's coming up for me. I'm pretty sure I need support with this, but I'm pretty sure because I'm having this idea for my business, or I think I should burn it down, or I think I should try this new strategy, or I think I should send this really reactive email to my list. They're really great at having the idea, but recognizing and voicing maybe this isn't the thing I should really do, right? Putting their CEO hat on and saying, maybe I need help with the human side of things, because we all do, so that we can process work through that. And then coming back to, okay, so then what is actually from neutral, the strategic decision that makes sense? Is this really a problem that needs to be solved? Or is my brain just craving something so badly because it wants control and safety? Is this really the thing I need to take action on? Or is it really just that I had some really big emotions and feels, and that was like propelling this idea? Is this really the offer I need to put out? Like, do I really need a 17th new offer? I'm teasing. Like, or like, am I just riding the wave of, whatever I was feeling? Let me know. Y'all are very, very quiet, but hopefully this is making sense for you. So let me see here. I think there was one other thing I wanted to share here. The last piece I'll just share on this, I'm just seeing here. No comments. Okay, no questions. Good. Hopefully that means that's landing. The last piece I'll say here, because I think what happens with this concept of getting to neutral and neutrality, and like both being a human who has your feelings, but like not bringing that into the business. I'm kind of talking about what are we making things mean? I think where this also gets sometimes a little confused, and I think this is also important to speak to, is sort of like, but what about our excitement? What about our intuition? What about when we're having those creative downloads that feel really big? Because those don't necessarily feel neutral. And The way I think about this is, I'm just trying to think of how to like articulate this. What I would just offer here is what I'm really talking about is your role as a CEO and understanding what that means to think strategically in your business and treating your business like a business. That doesn't mean you can't have creative downloads or can't have these ideas or can't be really inspired by your work or love your work. It's just when you're in your role as a CEO where maybe you're deciding what's the next offer you're going to launch, what's the next strategy you're going to implement, just really understanding when you're making those decisions that you're coming from that more neutral CEO lens. It's able to see what's going on. That doesn't mean, again, you can't be like the creative CEO who also has the downloads. But even within that, I don't know about y'all, but I feel like I have a creative download every 5 seconds. I have so many ideas for new offers and new things I could do. And they're great ideas. And I still have to take all of those creative downloads, and I still want to remember my job then as a CEO is neutrally to look at those and to see, well, which ones actually make sense for us to implement, which ones actually fit in with our current goals and plans, which ones maybe don't, but we're just like, you're so excited about that, and you having that excitement or sharing that like is going to check off the feel good box, and like that's actually a good strategic move, right? I still want to bring in that neutral CEO lens so then to make decisions to do with what to do with all of those ideas or those creative downloads. And I think again, that's just a place to see, like we just want to know what role we need to step into in our business. And there's just always that value for being able to come to neutrality, but it doesn't mean that you have to be neutral in every aspect and role of your business. And that's why I wanted to explain this a little bit more, because I think, again, otherwise we hear this and we think we're supposed to just be like non-feeling, non-creative beings, and I think everyone in this group, we're kind of all the opposite of that. But it is understanding how do these parts of us, come together in different ways. In some forms of therapy, I think it's Jungian therapy, they do a lot of archetypal work. And I know some of the coaches in here, you also do archetypal work. And you can think of it in that way, right? Like we have different archetypal works, meaning there are different archetypes that express the different sides of us. Some of the work I do with clients, sometimes I help them come up with like their superpowers as a business owner, and we look at like their two main, kind of like their masculine, feminine archetypes, just in terms of energies and kind of like the shadow light sides and where the two lights form together. I don't know if that'll make sense in a brief concept, but let me know if you're interested in that. We can always do a live stream on that more. It's kind of like that superpower archetype to step into. Your CEO can also simply be an archetype, and I think maybe that's a helpful way to think of it. Your CEO and the way you think, and like your CEO self is the more neutral part of you. It's the higher level thinking part of your brain that's not in fear, that's not in stress, that's not in hyper excitement, that's not over emotional, that's not making decisions from a reactive emotional place, right? That's just really that part of you. It's that archetype, like it's the CEO archetype that really also sees your business is not you. Your business is, sure, it's an extension of us in some ways. Like it is something that is separate from you, that it is meant to make strategic decisions around. But you get to have the creative archetype. You get to have all of these different archetypes, and maybe that's a more helpful way to think about getting to neutral and thinking and showing up like a CEO or being in your CEO role, as opposed to thinking, and now this is who you're supposed to be 24/7. I think one of the ways I've explained this before is I have a lot of roles. I have a lot of archetypes. I have a lot of different identities I step into in my life. I'm a wife. I'm a stepmom. I'm a best friend. I'm a daughter. I'm the girl who likes to go to spin class and crush it there, and then I'm the girl who's in hip hop class and not crushing it there. Right? Like I'm all these different identities, and like depending on what I'm doing, I step into a different archetype and a different part of myself. It doesn't mean the other parts of me are devoid, but I'm not necessarily going to bring in the way I am as a wife to the way I am with my best friend. And the way I am with my best friend, that's not necessarily who I'm going to show up for my stepson, right? Like they wouldn't even necessarily be appropriate. It doesn't mean that I'm false or out of integrity or out of, that I'm not being authentic, or that those other parts of me aren't valid and valuable. Just like the archetype and the identity that shows up to therapy is a different version than the part of me that shows up to coach my clients, or the version of me that shows up with my coach is very different than the version of me that shows up to coach my clients, right? But that doesn't mean one isn't authentic or one isn't right, but it is important for me to know which one is right for which situation. And so that is, I think, is just a skill set. Dana says being unbothered is a CEO mindset. This is resonating. Thank you. Oh, so glad. Thank you. I'm glad this is glad this is landing because sometimes more obtuse concepts, like I'm hoping I'm landing the plane on this. Yes, being unbothered is a CEO mindset. And that doesn't mean we don't care. I think it's just to like put the nail on the head is with all of these things, it doesn't mean that we don't care as humans. It doesn't mean we, it doesn't mean that we don't have these other facets of us. It's just knowing which facet, which archetype, I think is maybe a more helpful word for this group, which archetype, which role. I'm an ex-actress, so I go through, the word of role, which part of that we're going to step into at which time without killing off, right? Without negating, without ignoring the other sides of us. So just because Dana put this in here, being unbothered is a CEO mindset. If as a CEO, we are unbothered and we're more neutral and we're seeing what's happening in the business as separate from us, and we're going to, take that strategic action, right? And I'll just use an example of it. Like what that means is, let's just say you're in a launch and you're not getting the numbers you want in terms of signups. As a CEO, if you're unbothered and neutral, then what you might see is, oh, okay, so this is just data. This is what's happening. Let's take a look. Can I bring this to my coach and just see what's going on? What can we adjust? Is my landing page converting? Or do we have enough people going through the funnel? Are people opening my emails? Are people clicking on the link? Are people going to the checkout page, right? Like, are we sending enough sales emails? Have we sent enough follow-ups, right? Can I just problem solve and see what's the right problem to solve here? Right, that's being very neutral and just seeing like, okay, right, I'm unbothered. Like this is just what's happening. These are just the facts ahead of me. What's the next play in the game? Oh, great. What I'm seeing happening is people need to hear a little bit more conversation around X, Y, and Z because that's where things are stopping the funnel. I'm just going to go put out some content or some emails around that, or I'm going to send an extra follow-up, or I'm going to adjust the copy on the top of this landing page, whatever the solution is there, right? That's stepping into that role. But that doesn't mean you can't be a human who outside of that, it's like, oh, I'm bummed or I'm frustrated or like, I really wish these numbers were bigger. Like I had high hopes and expectations and like, this is kind of bumming me out. We just want to create that separation. And so then the human side of you still gets to have those feelings. You just get to process those separately. And what we don't want to do is then make those feelings true and make them mean something about you and your business and to take action or to show up in business to make decisions from that. And one of the things I talk about with clients a lot, this is something I think about a lot in business, is when I'm being a human who is bothered, when I'm being a human and having a human experience, when I'm being a human and triggered or jacked up or in anxiety or in stress or whatever that is, right, in a trauma response, whatever, having my feels, I get to have those. But I just need to wait until I need to go then be that part of me and process those outside of my business and wait until I'm at neutral to make strategic decisions. So using the launch example, this might just help land the plane on this. Using the launch example, let's say you're feeling super jacked up because you're in the middle of a launch and you have put a lot of pressure on this and you're expecting this to make whatever number you need it to make 100K because otherwise you're making that mean you suck or you don't get to stay in business or you need this to pay for X, Y, and Z, right? So you're super jacked up around that. That's fine. You get to be a human. But what we want to see then is, oh, I'm super jacked up. I'm not neutral. That means I am not in my CEO role. I need to go then take my human self and go process those feelings, right? I get to be human, but until I've processed that and gone to neutral, I don't get to touch my fucking business. And once I'm at neutral and once I'm showing up as a CEO, great, I get to touch my business. Y'all read, what's her name? Elizabeth Gilbert, what is it, Big Magic? Where she has the example of like fear, and it's like fear's in the car with her, and she's like, you can ride shotgun, you can do your voice, like whatever it is, but you just can't touch the dashboard. I'm butchering how that is. That's kind of the same thing here. You get to be all the different facets of you. It's just when it comes to touching the dashboard of your business or running your business, that's where we want to say only the CEO touches the dashboard, and the CEO is the neutral version of you. The CEO is the unbothered version of you who can just look at this a little bit more like a doctor, like a surgeon with precision. That's just like, let me just look at the data and see what's going on and what is the decision. What is the strategic decision or not decision, right? Sometimes the thing we actually need to do is nothing. Sometimes the best strategy is letting your strategy work and not fucking with things that are working. Said from experience, right? But the CEO role, the CEO version is then, I am neutral, I am unbothered, I am just looking at the dashboard, I am just looking at the data, I am just looking at what's going on, and I'm just going to make a clear, precise decision based on that and what my business needs, what my audience needs, what my clients need, not based on what my human emotional self needs in the moment and wants. Because what my emotional human self might need is coddling. What it might need is validation. What it might need is safety. What it might need is to go create a big bunch of chaos and problems so that it can feel like it has control, or so that it can feel excited, or so that it can play out its pattern of drama, right? That's what my human side might need, but that's not what my business needs. And so again, we just want to see all the parts of you are okay. All the parts of you are welcome. All the archetypes, all the roles are welcome. But when you can start to see what archetype, what role, what part of me is showing up, and what does that part of me need, and what role do I need to step into to run my business, right, or to show up for clients, that's when everything changes. And so then when I say my clients who are, scaling really sustainably and who are at that higher level, like the skills that they work on, it's this. It's not that they are devoid of human, it's not that they're unbothered as humans. They've just gotten more and more practice at noticing, oh, this is my human stuff, let me bring it to coaching. Or this is my business stuff, like I'm now in neutral CEO role, so let me bring that to coaching as well. But knowing we don't want to approach the business from the emotional place, and honestly, we don't want to approach the emotional place with the business stuff, right? Like we just want to keep those separate. And the more we can notice that, the more we can separate that, the more we can give space for both and know who you're showing up with and who shows up where, the easier everything gets, the more sustainable everything gets, because this is when we stop creating problems in our business. This is when we stop creating chaos and drama. Most of us don't realize how much society has taught us to be addicted to drama. And I think I really think it is also a skill set and a practice to unhook from always wanting drama, or like always wanting another dopamine hit, or right. And so I think it is just a skill set and a practice. But the more you can do that, the not only like the easier is it to get results in business. I mean, look, you can get results in business being super jacked up and reactive. We're seeing this play out in our government. But sustainable results that are profitable, results that don't cost you a lot of money, results that don't burn you out or make you want to burn down your business, that comes from understanding these different aspects of us and how to show up where and what we need to get back to neutral when we're showing up in a different way. All right, y'all. Let me just see if there's anything else I wanted to share. I think I shared, I think I alluded to this earlier, but just because this is one of the bullets, I said why this matters more right now, even if you're feeling overwhelmed by business, money, or the state of the world. The reason this feels more prevalent than ever is for a couple of reasons. One, what I said at the beginning, I think most of you in this space are probably being affected by the state of our world has been, it's not like it just became a hot mess now. I think it's just quite heightened right now. If that's the case, and I just want to normalize this for everybody, for those of you, I know there are people in this group are welcome to have different political viewpoints than me. I have people close to me who do, and I'm very available to have those conversations when they're with critical thinking and with kindness. So you don't have to think the same way I do. But if you do, I know for many people who are politically minded like me and who have certain traumas, specifically, particularly for those of you who've had any sort of narcissistic abuse, but I think quite a few traumas. Right now, the state of the world and what's going on in the US, I think is honestly quite triggering and activating for a lot of people. And I think what's also happening aside from that, I say that just to normalize that if people are feeling that, but then if that's true, right, that means if something, when I lost my dad, for example, when we're going through big personal things and we know our nervous system is being activated in a different way than normal, so we're not neutral, and it's also not healthy just to bypass and shove things down. Maybe using when I lost my dad as an example is just a better example here. My work as a human, what would have been good for me as a human was not to push down my grief or my emotions or to pretend I was unbothered or to pretend I don't care. Being bothered and having grief was a very appropriate, healthy response and something I need to process through. But my work as a CEO and business owner and coach for my clients was to know how to do that work, right, as Kim the human, and to understand, I'm still a human obviously, but as Kim the CEO and coach, what role to step in there. I needed to do that work as a human so that I could neutrally show up to hold space for other people, neutrally show up to make decisions in my business, instead of asking my business to do all of my soothing and healing for me, right, or to give me all of my safety or all of the things there. So when there are heightened things happening in the world that are affecting more of us, right, I think it's just a more timely conversation, because more of us all at the same time probably have an opportunity to be paying attention to this work and the different roles we're stepping into and how we're taking care of ourselves in our personal human role, so that in our CEO business role we can show up differently. But what this also means, I think particularly right now, we're also in a time where social media, like content has been changing over the last year quite a bit. Social media, bots, all of the things are what they are and have been. And I want to be very mindful here. I do not think social media is bad. I think there are elements of it that can feel more heightened and triggering for some people right now. But I really want to, I wouldn't have a business if it weren't for social media. I posted this on Instagram yesterday. For all of those hateful comments, I got a lot of beautiful ones. And one of the comments came from one of my first clients, 8 years ago, who was telling me she lives outside the US, the support she has for me in the country, but also just how much she loved our work together and how she thinks I'm the best coach she's ever worked with, or that she knows, just a really beautiful comment. That is because of social media. I connected with her 8 years ago on social media. If it weren't for social media, we wouldn't have that beautiful relationship and connection. So I don't want to make social media bad. However, when this is going on and we have someone, whatever your political viewpoints are, we have someone who is creating more division and who is, at least in the US, making it seem like it is okay to say really harsh, we'll say spicy to be nice, things as a way to garner attention and as a way to provoke and as a way, essentially, it's propaganda, it's a marketing campaign, right, to create chaos. I think what this does is it makes a lot of people who are hiding behind closed walls, who usually would be quiet and keep their hate and keep their opinions to themselves, it makes a lot of people feel really emboldened to lash out. And so the reason this is particularly relevant as a conversation is we're having a lot of things happen. A lot of you are probably feeling more heightened emotions, more triggered than usual. And a lot of you are probably also feeling more scared to show up and share your voice than usual, because you're seeing there is just a lot more, not just noise, but people who are feeling basically emboldened, right? And so I just want to say, you're not, I don't want to gaslight anyone, you're not crazy, that is pretty much what's happening. But that's, I think, why this conversation and this work is so much more important, because the more you can see, okay, and it's actually pretty normal if I'm an empathetic human being who's had any kind of experience, or who's paying attention. Again, I don't want to make someone wrong who has different political viewpoints than me, and also I feel quite convicted and strong that, you don't have to agree with me either, that the person who is in power in our country is ruining democracy and evil. And anyway, I'm going to stay off my soapbox there because I've done a lot of that on social media. But if you're feeling a response to that, it is likely because you're an empathetic human being. It is quite a normal response. I would say it's actually, in my opinion, not so normal if you're not having a response to that, right? But that also means you probably have to do a little bit more work to take care of that human side of you, so that you're able to show up in business in the way your business needs you to as a CEO. Similarly, if you're then feeling it's that much more challenging to show up and share content, or you're feeling that much more vulnerable, or that much more exposed, or that much more, not everybody's going to be unbothered the way I am by haters. The reason I'm unbothered by those haters is because I literally think it's laughable what they're saying, and they just are blowing up my content, so I don't care, right? But it's also okay if you're bothered by that. But then I think it just becomes that much more important for us to see the bothered part of you is valid, but the bothered part of you is the 13-year-old that got bullied, right? It's the 7-year-old who didn't get attention from your parents, right? It's that part of you that we need to give some extra love to, so that you can separate that out from the CEO part of you, who's right, but what does my business need from me? What does my marketing need from me? How do I need to show up? What do I need to say? What do I need to sell? What do I need to be a voice for? How do I need to hold space for my people? How do I need to serve my people, right? We just need to create space for both. And I think when things are heightened, the same thing happened with COVID. When COVID happened, I don't think I've ever, not worked harder, but I don't think I've ever held, more space, if that's the right word, than I did during that time. Because things were just heightened for everybody, and this work, this was the work. So many of my clients blew up during COVID. I think COVID was a boom time in the online space anyway, but a big reason for that is because of this work, because they were willing to do the work to process their human stuff, so that in their business they could show up neutrally like the CEO to run their business like a business. And that's the magic, and that's the piece I wanted to say here. That's the skill set. And I feel like the masterclass, I'll drop the link for it. I think it's an excellent masterclass, but I'm sharing 5 different mindsets and 5 components overall to scale sustainably. I can't go into it deeply, and I think sometimes the concept of neutrality, again, I think it just gets confused, and I don't want to miss out that element of neutrality doesn't mean be neutral all the time. Again, I am not a neutral human. I'm not even neutral on my client calls, but I'm showing up neutrally for my client in terms of I'm not bringing all my shit into a call. I'm not going to project my emotions onto somebody. I can hold space for a client who has a different political viewpoint for me, right? And figure out what's right for them without bringing my stuff into that, because I'm letting myself be a full emotional human outside of my business, outside of coaching. I'm allowing myself to process, give myself what I need there so I can show up this way in business. So I hope that distinction makes sense. I know it's a bit of a nuanced, kind of a heady concept, but I promise you, if there was like one thing that has made a bigger difference for me in business than like pretty much anything else, it is this. Yes, of course I need strategy. Of course, like I'm not discounting the other parts, but like I've been in business for 9 years. I have ridden a lot of waves. I have been in some real sticky situations with humans, right? Getting a bunch of hateful comments is the least of it, right? I hold clients in some really hard, like I hold stuff for clients that I will never be able to talk about in content. I'm able to do that and not to feel burnt out by coaching, and to hold 20 clients or more and have for over 6 years, and to show up to support the way I do, and to show up on content the way I do, right, and all of that, and to sustain the revenue I do because of what we're talking about here. Not because I'm high vibe all the time, not because I'm perfect, not because I have all the answers, not because my strategy is perfect, not because my marketing is perfect, not because, I don't know, like I never feel anything or I don't get ruffled by things, but it's because of what we're talking about here. I just understand the different aspects of me and what aspect is showing up where, and how to really honor each aspect of myself, give that aspect of myself what it needs so that I can neutrally show up in my business. And I really have just gotten skilled practice at noticing when I'm not neutral, to bring that to my coach so that I'm not touching the dashboard in my business. Because y'all, let me tell you, it is such a, like, I am a recovering perfectionist, people pleaser, high functioning trauma person, all the things, right? I was sharing this on our last live stream. This will be the last button I put this on, but I think this is just like the other reason this helps my clients at a higher level. At a higher level, I just mean they've been in business longer, right? They've just scaled to more revenue. They have more to hold in terms of clients' revenue team. My business is doing really well. Like, it probably will be our biggest month ever in business. My ads are crushing it, right? Like, I cannot tell you, for me, when, as the human Kim, I shared this on my last live stream, how uncomfortable that is for me. I just want to tinker and mess with shit. Like, I just want to like go mess with my ads and make them better. I want to go mess with my funnels and make them better. And I'm just now practiced enough to know that is Kim in the emotional side of me, for all the reasons we talked about in our last live stream that we don't have to unpack here. And so I just got practice at bringing that to my coach and saying, I'm pretty sure this is my personal stuff. I'm pretty sure, because of the state of the world, I feel really unsafe and I want control, and I'm just wanting to touch all the dials, like, and to process that. And so I can get clear so that I only touch the dials in my business when I'm actually neutral, and that I can see that difference. Like, that's the difference. Otherwise, 6 years ago, Kim probably would have been like, oh, let's go play. Let's go make this better, because I would have been uncomfortable that I'm having more success. I would have been uncomfortable that I make more money. I would have been uncomfortable with the state of the world and wanted to try to create control in my business. And I probably would fuck a bunch of things up. And so I just want us to see like how this shows up in different ways. All right, y'all. I have hit you over the head with this concept. If you have questions on the replay, let me know. I will drop the link for that masterclass that we turned evergreen for you, the Simplified Scaling Blueprint. It's going to walk you through those 5 components to scale sustainably and profitably to 10K to 100K months. It is a replay. This is the one we did last month. But again, just so many of you gave me great feedback, so I wanted to make that evergreen and accessible for you. And then if any of you are looking for support, if you're hearing this and this is the type of coaching support you want, so that, yes, you can process the human side of things, but also really learn how to get to neutral, how to think and show up like a CEO, to run your business like a business, to make those strategic decisions, to map out the strategy, because we do need the strategy as well, right? The strategy side of things, from the messaging, the marketing, the sales process, to scale sustainably to those 10K to 100K months. I would love to support you. I am full, but we just filled a spot. I believe we'll still have a spot open up in April. We will at least have an intensive, and then I think we have one in May and June. I'll drop a link for a discovery call, but either way, if you're interested, book a discovery call. That way we can chat, see if it's a fit. Fit's very, very, very important for me. And then you can have first availability on my next opening as it becomes available. All right, y'all, I love you so much. Thank you for being here, for having this conversation. Please feel free to share all of the comments, even if you disagree with me. I'm available for that as long as in a thoughtful and kind way. I'm open for those discussions. And I will be back next week. Bye.